Honestly, I thought Christians were weak. I knew that there was a God. I believed He hated me, so I hated Him back. And there was no reason to go to church. There was no reason to have anything to do with Christians. In fact, even if I would want to, they wouldn't have anything to do with me.
I think it was more of a religious idea of a church than an actual church, like the religion part. I could never quite grasp that. I could never quite grasp the concept of no matter what you do, if you don't do it right, you're going down.
A routine. Churches and Christians were just people who went and worshipped almost an imaginary God. I had no concept of God.
I had a very negative view on what Christians were. I felt, when we went to a really large church, I felt that Christians were kind of fake and bigots and such. They all seemed to talk about how you were supposed to be and how they were, but they really didn't act like that.
I thought they were just a bunch of posers, that they were going there on Sundays dressed up nice so they could look good for the community.
Baloney, you know. Here comes the Bible thumpers, but
religious.
You know, it wasn't heartfelt because I grew up Catholic, and it was, I would just sit through church, you know, basically for 1 hour, not really listen to the word, not really get much out of it.
I don't know, they were just weird people. I didn't really get what most people got out of it.
Thought people were very judgmental, sometimes hypocritical, you know, kind of phony.
A lot of emptiness. I grew up in a Catholic church and it was very phony. You know, they'd be sitting in church looking all perfect. The minute they'd leave, forget it. The behavior went right down.
You had to be a certain way. You had to dress the way they wanted you to. You had to look the way they wanted you to. You had to do everything perfectly. There was no broad version of it. It was, this is how you have to be. You have to be uptight, dress neat, conform to exactly what we say or we expect of you, and that's it.
Cliquey. I really couldn't trust the pastor because they'd go talk once you said something, if you said in confidence, you know, needing to talk or stuff like that. Everybody's very cliquey. You couldn't trust them.
I had brought a few of my friends to church because we were supposed to go to see a Billy Graham crusade, and we pulled up in a vehicle. And, they wouldn't let us on the bus. They would not let us on the 40. They were school buses that carried 40 people, and they made us go down to Providence alone in that bus, and they wouldn't even let us on the bus with the regular church people. They didn't want us near them. You know, I used to take my motorcycle to church, and they'd always get on my back about cutting my hair, you know, not wearing dungarees and da-da-da. You know, it was a horror show. They couldn't wait to get out of the place.
9:50 a.m., October 23rd, 2006. That's when I was saved. That's the moment God touched me. I know for a fact.
When I realized that I don't have control over a situation that I'm in.
And I had severe health problems. I could no longer do the work that I was doing. My marriage fell apart, went through a divorce, financial issues, and in my mind, everything that I had worked toward, prayed about for 25 years had fallen apart. But it forced me to my knees, and it forced me to be more honest with God than I had ever been in my life.
In my darkest, loneliest times, when you have to cry out, when there is no place to turn, when you can't solve whatever issue or circumstance you're in, that's when I felt closest to God.
I first started reading the Bible, and all of a sudden everything came to me. I couldn't stand it before. It was like if I needed to go to sleep, I needed, you know, something that I couldn't sleep at night, I would read a couple of these, thous, and those, and I was snoozing.
The first time I came to Broken Chains.
Past year or so, hanging out with Tom, you know, helping me pray when things are wrong.
I went through a divorce and moved out of state, moved away from my 2 children, and I don't know how I did it. God had to do it because there's no way I could have done it on my own.
I had an experience once when I was really having a down time in my life, and the light of God shone on me and came into my heart, and it totally blew me away. I couldn't even believe it.
Like 2 years ago when my other half got throat cancer, I relied strictly on God to carry me through. It was like the roughest time.
I probably feel closest to God now, more so than I ever did before, which is strange because in the previous decade I taught Sunday school for 10 years and never felt close to God or felt the Spirit like I feel right now.
I was told recently I had a tumor on my thyroid and was horrified for months and months and months, and just recently found out that the tumor is benign and that everything's okay. And you know, beating one scare was lucky, but to beat that kind of scare twice, it just made me feel like someone was looking out for me.
When I first got saved, I felt this overwhelming presence, just uplifting. It was like a new world. It was just incredible.
The day came into my life when I realized that He was looking out for me and putting people into my life at the right times. That was pretty much the day I realized it.
When my father died tragically, I blame God for that.
Prior to coming to Christ, I doubted that God loved me. I doubted that He even cared about me. Who was I?
When my father died, I wasn't saved at the time, and God and I went to war, or I went to war with God.
You know, I've created any distance that there ever was with God. I never felt that God abandoned me, even through some hard times. You know, we went through cancer with one of our children, but I always felt more it was me walking away or abandoning God. I never really felt like God abandoned me. It was just my own taking myself away from Him.
The day my dad died when I was 10, but my dad was a drunk, died a drunk.
Before I got to know him, now that I know a little bit about him, I don't feel so distant.
Would be when I figured out that there really was a God. I was an atheist and a pretty angry, nasty-mouthed one at that. But someone actually convinced me that there was a God, and I started to feel His presence. I was scared to death after everything I did and said.
Well, when I was a teenager, I kind of went my own way, and I got in a lot of trouble and started doing a lot of things wrong. I was a really, really, really heavy drinker, and people just kept distant from me at that point. I was distant from my family. I was distant from friends. I was just an absolute disaster. I'd got in trouble, everything. I just felt like I had nothing in this world and no reason to be in it.
I tried to take my own life. I tried to commit suicide, and I felt that at that time that nobody could help me. You know, that the only way out was just to do it my own way.
Definitely 2 years ago, when I ended up in a shelter.
On 9/11, I rode my motorcycle down to Ground Zero. After that, my whole life changed. I just did not know what to believe after that.
Probably most of my life, for most of my life. I mean, God was just on the other team. You know what I mean? I didn't not believe there was a God. I always believed there was a God. I was brought up Catholic. I just didn't, you know, he was on the wrong team. And I didn't understand that whole, like, God loves you no matter what. Like, I don't earn love. I don't do anything that makes the love less. I didn't really understand that.
I was having very bad thoughts of suicide things, and I just felt hopeless. And that was probably the worst time in my life as far as like my relationship with God. I always believed in God. I knew He was there, but I just thought He turned His back on me. And at that point, I was just ready to give it up.
The time that I felt farthest from God, or felt that there was a distance, were the times in my life when I felt successful. and began to think, well, I had done these things and things were going well, and I would give a casual thanks or casual praise in prayer, but tending to lapse into self-sufficiency and pride, and definitely that sense of distance grew at that
It would be the outcome of that incident, because I actually had a glimpse of God that day, because he actually just, I saw this bright light. It was beautiful, and he basically just pushed me back and just told me it wasn't my time.
I guess being there when my grandson was born, that was just an incredible thing. And the first time I held him and he actually made eye contact.
After my children, just for the joy they've given me over the years.
My marriage, my wife, she's put up with me. She's a very caring person. She loves me.
My 2 children. They're the best things that ever happened to me.
My daughter. That's easy.
I'm at the point where I am now, that I have a real relationship with God today, and it's just continuing to grow.
I would have to go with my wife, for putting her in my life.
And I had a bleed on my brain, and I had to go and have brain surgery. And afterwards, I had no deficits except I wasn't myself. I remember going to the doctors all the time. I can't find myself. I was not the same person, and I was lost. And to this day, I thank God used that circumstance, because he couldn't use me the way I was before. He just couldn't.
Allowing me to raise 2 children that are following him even to this day.
It's just my children being born and healthy and being there for that. It's just amazing to have my 2 sons.
Well, it would be for the incident of my salvation. I thank God for just speaking so directly to me and cutting through the emotions, cutting through my own thinking, and just putting his word in my heart and in my mind.
When I asked God to take the addiction of drinking away from me, he did it.
For him getting me sober, I went through a hard time for many years, struggling with alcohol abuse, and I got to the point where I couldn't stop drinking on my own, and I knew it, and I just, when he got me sober, that was like the best thing that ever happened to me in the world.
I was riding a borrowed motorcycle, and I was pretty drunk when I crashed it, but I broke my back in 2 places, and it left me without the use of my legs. That's when I came to Christ.
I think it's when I started coming to Broken Chains, and I realized a different way of life, to learn to live in the Word and not live in the flesh, and become a better person.
It would be the day that Tom and Deb came to my room at the shelter and helped me bless it, because a recent friend had OD'd and I felt his spirit was still lingering.
It was the night of a blues bash that you guys played. Like I had been going through all that sickness with my other half, and I wasn't involved in the church family, and Eric. And he started singing the song, but no music behind him, and I knew that God dance was going to happen, because he was singing for somebody and from something else.
I had a head-on car collision, and all of a sudden God woke me up out of this operation, and he spoke to me, an audible voice I heard. He said, "Skip, I'm going to deliver you from the drugs and the alcohol," and I was delivered that night from the drugs and alcohol.
I was having thoughts of suicide, and something happened where it was almost like a miracle. Somebody that I knew, I had no money, no friends, I was living out of state, and somebody that I knew vaguely found out that my truck had broken down, and he came and fixed my truck for me without really knowing where I lived. So I took that as kind of a miracle that God was watching out for me. And I remember just looking up, and I was in tears. I was drinking that day, and I was in tears. I looked up at the sky, and I just knew that God was looking out for me, and that the things were going to be all right.
About 2.5 years ago, my marriage came to a crisis, and my husband, for many years, I tried to get him to come to church, and he, wouldn't. He just didn't feel like he fit in at any church, and things were really, really bad, and it was. I can almost see an actual crossroads at this point, and I said to him, this is something we have to do. We're going to have to find something. We're going to have to make that spiritual connection with God, or it's just not going to work out. And we tried a couple other little churches for a few months here, a few months there, and struggling to make the connection. And then we found Broken Chains. It's amazing what it's done in our marriage, in our life. My husband has become a man of God now, and it was just, we've been together for 30 years, and I'd say the last 2.5 years we've really been together, and it's amazing.
Okay, that's it. Oh, absolutely. Coming to Broken Chains Church, because I fit in there. And feeling comfortable with the folks and being welcomed, and then getting more involved, and really started to, study the Word and start building a relationship. So that was, no question about it, was the turning point.
Then it happened to be Bike Week, and I was in Daytona Beach, and my sister found out that at Calvary they were having a bike outreach. I found out there was somebody from Brockton, so I went around and I said, "Can you show me who it was?" It was Pastor Tom, and I asked him if I could come to the church. I knew it was a biker church, and I'm not a biker, and I figured everybody would be young, and of course I was old. And he laughed and he said everybody was welcome. And when I came here, guess what? I was so welcome, and everybody was welcome.
Honestly, I would have to say it when I started coming here, because for a lot of years I was in church but not getting what I needed to get. Since I've been coming here, I've just every Thursday and Friday night I've been fed, I've been growing, I've been learning things, and I've been a Christian my entire life, and things that, I'm learning things that I didn't know.
When my first child was born, where there was a lot of rocky things going on, and the relationship with the mother, it was back and forth, back and forth. It was one of those long drawn out things, and shortly after he was born, I think I just was really happy that it got real bad and ended real quick, and I felt like it could just move on and make a better life after that it didn't drag out and just more misery and to screw up my child. It's just something was there to just put a nail in it, end it, spread it out, and move on and make a better life for myself and my son.
Why not?
Broken Chains was planted for one reason and one reason only: to give everybody like me and like you a place where we can go, where people aren't going to judge you by your appearance.
Broken Chains Biker Church is the church that you read about in Acts. People coming in, some who don't know Christ, some who do, and the Holy Spirit is evident in the lives of the people here. And you see people being raised up by God. People are discovering abilities, gifts that they weren't aware of before. People are finding hope in otherwise dismal and painful life experiences. People are being healed. Marriages are being healed. People are being saved. It's just alive, and it's forming before our eyes.
It is cool. You will hear the Word of God. You will meet people that you never thought you would meet in your life. And you would see people that you never thought you'd see at a church. Great band, too.
People here love one another, care about one another.
Unbelievable experience. My first time was a First Friday. It's all about family. It's all about friendship. They make you feel welcome. There's not one person that doesn't introduce themselves to you. They make you feel comfortable, like you don't want to leave, like you just want to hang out.
They're very welcoming, and I never found that anywhere before. The people are real.
Hang out with some good people. Have some fun. Learn a little about the man upstairs, I guess.
Because it's exactly what the churches all over the place claim to be. When they say that their doors open to everybody and anybody, and they're there to support you and to guide you in the right direction no matter what you do, who you are, what you've done, or what you're like. It's the truth.
It's just that it breaks the stereotype of what a Christian should look like.
So this is the type of church where you can come to. If you're a misfit, you'd fit right in. You don't have to worry about impressing anybody. Come as you are.
They are real people. They love on you. They're honest. They teach. You can ask them anything. You can share whatever you are. It doesn't matter because they accept everybody.
It's real here. There's no phonies. Everybody's just real. I mean, you come in the door any way you want to, and nobody's gonna judge. Nobody's gonna, talk behind your back. We're all here because we love Jesus, and we're here to help other people get saved. And basically, you gotta feel like you're at home. If you come to this church, you gotta feel like you're at home.
I'm not a biker. I'm not, I'm just an average everyday person, but I fit in awesomely. Anybody can fit in here. If I can, anybody can.
Like Broken Chains, we're like a big family, and it's not about what you look like or what you ride or what you don't ride or whatever. Even though it's a biker church, it's really about relationships, and we're a bunch of quirky people that welcome all. So
They accept everybody from every walk of life that looks in any direction, that's done anything wrong. It's just anybody trying to turn the right corner. The door's open, and there they are with their hand out to help you out.
Jesus, rescue me, set me free of the chains.